Yep.
There you go.
There we go. Do you want to speak to Lee on his own, or?
Yeah, what I'll do is, because I'll attach it to the episode that we already recorded. But
yeah,
Lee will introduce Lee, and then you can jump in it wherever you need to. You know, because it's really interesting to hear what I know how it feels for me to go through havening and some of the other modalities. But it's always great to hear somebody who's willing to step up. And we also, and when I'll cut and paste this a little bit, but also want to say thank you for your service, and
thank you.
Which unfortunately has led you to here, but it's a great way to have met you. I'm glad that you're on the path to healing and things like that.
Yeah. Well, thanks to Ray. It wasn't as good a few months back. No chance.
I can't imagine. And in fact, I'd suggest you guys. I'm going to be interviewing the gentleman on Monday. There's a person called Frank Romeo. His name is Frank Romeo. Here in the United States, he's a 70-year-old man who is a Vietnam veteran who walked across New York State, and it's one of our larger states in the United States, to talk about PTSD, because he had experienced that. And there's a documentary called A Walk with Frank, and it's free right now. So if you go look it on, I watched it over the weekend, and I was like, oh my God. I had gone to a couple of events to support the payment for the walk with Frank, and just seeing the walk and how he interacted. He stayed at homeless shelters with veterans, and everybody's going through something. And it was an incredible documentary. It's about an hour and a half of time, and it's free on the internet. So,
yeah,
you're not alone. I mean, not only in the UK, but unfortunately worldwide, anybody who's taken that step.
Yeah, I think it's sort of left to the side over in this country more than it is over in America. There's a lot of understanding as well to get through, the different stages and the different traumas that are associated with PTSD. And it is a silent demon that just creeps up on you. And it's not very nice at all. And you find a lot of us as soldiers will dismay the fact that we have it. And the flashbacks, they're just memories, and then all of a sudden, once it's got a grip of you, like it did with me. Ray will tell you, I was clinically dead. I was that poorly, that bad, through the misuse of alcohol and drugs and anything else. It was just a sheer mental torture and pain, that couldn't get gone. It was just stuck right at the front. And for 10 years, obviously, when I got injured in Afghanistan, it's just been in war mode for that long, hyper vigilant, to the point where I couldn't sit in a room unless I was in the corner. And I had to know everyone that was in there. I had to know every exit, all the cameras. It was horrific, and it nearly destroyed me. It really did. Through Ray, and yeah, I still call him Merlin.
Because I'm old.
It's magic. It's just a magical. Yeah. I was just said on the way down, the last 4 weeks of my life have been like it was 10 years ago, but even better. And even my partner, my fiance, she even said to me 2 weeks ago, she was just shaking her head. She was just like, I've never seen you like this. Never seen you so happy. And it's very hard to explain, but yeah, it's some technique that works brilliantly.
Yeah, I agree, because I've experienced it also. So to be quite honest, not only have I, there used to be a commercial in America. I'm not only the hair club president, but I'm also a client. So I understand. I've used havening and as well as some of the other techniques for myself, and I still use it as a resource. That's the beauty of it. Once you learn some of those things, those techniques, you're able to then use it on yourself. It doesn't always have to be going to Ray, though Ray's amazing, and we'll talk to Ray. The one question that you said in the UK, it seems to be a little bit more challenging. Do you think it's like that English, stiff upper lip? Is that the mindset, or is it the warrior mentality?
I think it's a combination of a few things. I think there's not enough people know enough about what soldiers have seen and go through, because there's different sort of PTSDs out there, as we know. And I've been through probably 5 psychiatrists, and they tend to read from a book or a computer, in my eyes. You know, they're not interacting like Ray did. And I had another girl from America came over back in 2013 when I was sectioned, and she was the same. She just come and got me out of my room and took me out, took me for a beer, and just got into my head slowly, because we put that back up. We do put that wall up, because we don't like to deal with it and express ourselves as commanders. It's a sign of weakness. But talking alone, you know, people say talk, and I think that's a bit of a myth as well, because you can talk till we're blue in the face, and some of us can talk quite freely about most of the stuff that we experienced out there. I just think it's just the way people are sort of negative towards it over here, and they will read from a pamphlet without the knowledge and looking into it. Like Ray's gone through 30 years, I think, of studying this stuff. And yeah, I say I wouldn't be here now, not without the guy, no way. And I think a lot more people in our medical system need to learn a bit more about it. I mentioned to a couple of the NHS girls that were dealing with me, and they never heard of Havening, never heard of the technique at all. And I told them to go away and read about it, because this guy was helping me more than what they were. They were actually making me worse and making me agitated, just the way they were, sort of thing, with me. So I think that's mainly the problem. But I think as well, it's a give and take. You've got to want to accept this help. You've got to want to interact, because without that, it won't work. It will not work at all. You've got to be so honest and truthful and just get everything out. And as much as it hurt, it's made me a lot better now and a lot better person now than I've ever been. And my look on life is exactly the same. Yeah, it's phenomenal. You say he's calling Merlin.
Yep. Yeah. No. And whenever you say Merlin, I think of when Havening first started or becoming a little bit more public. There was somebody in the UK, Malika, who had gone to the breakfast clubs. There's some veteran breakfast clubs, and the guys were just being guys. And again, if you go into a room and say, "Guys, I'm gonna make you feel better just by touching yourself," it's gonna give you a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
but then they started showing the Havening, and they were like, "What is this voodoo shit that you're doing?" And they were all starting to feel better about it. And then they start, the guys start talking to the guys like, "All right, what's going on?" And they were like, "This is voodoo shit," but they all loved it. Malika was loved and really was one of the important people at the beginning of Havening, getting out to the veterans. So when you say Merlin, I always think of, the comments from the veterans, what is this voodoo shit? And that's what I've spoken to when I've worked with veterans, said it's going to be like voodoo. I am not going to do anything. And like you had said earlier, you have to want to do it. So if I say, come on, rub your hands and your arms, and you don't really want to do it or don't believe in it, it doesn't matter what. We can rub till the skin comes off, but that's not going to help you. You have to want to do that as well and really seek the help. So I know Ray's right here. So how was it that you found Ray?
It was through SAFA, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was through a military organization. It was kind of long story short, the paramedics who had found me, I was smashing my head off a wall. It was that severe. So they had brought me back home. They had then contacted my doctor. My doctor then contacted SAFA, and SAFA then contacted Ray, which was brilliant. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd have gone back down the route of the wrong kind of treatment and the wrong stuff, I would have thought, because I have quite a lot of therapy and nothing has worked to this extent at all. So that was I was introduced to Ray, yeah. And like you say, it was a bit weird at first when he's sitting in front of me and he's starting to rub my shoulders. And yeah, as a soldier, I'm just thinking, I'll just go with this, and believe it or not, after the first session, even just that first hour and a half, 2 hours with him, I left that room and I couldn't believe what had happened. Couldn't even remember half of it, but yeah, I just felt so much better. So it was just, I've said to Ray, I can't explain it. It's that magic, it's that weird.
Yeah, that's the weirdest part is when you're in so much pain, you're willing to try anything, even rubbing your arm.
Mhm.
And once it starts working, you're like, okay, how is this possible? And uh, you know, that's the magic.
Yeah, and then he brought on
It
the
really is sort of Merlin. So let's ask Merlin. So Merlin, how has it been working with Lee and seeing? I know how it feels when I work with clients and you see success. How does it feel, seeing Lee's success?
Amazing, really wonderful. I mean, when you can get somebody that comes into you, and you've got to remember that these are extremely strong men. They put their life in line for people like us. We sit at home enjoying ourselves, going to the pubs, doing all this. These are the guys that make it possible for us to do this. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't know whether it's the government or the military. They're just shaking them off. They're just saying, okay, thank you for your service. We don't need to use you anymore. Off you go. And that's it. They just leave them there. And to see somebody to come in they're not broken at all. The mind and body is working perfectly well as a protective mechanism. But sometimes they feel as though they're broken. They feel as though there's something wrong with them. And that's entirely not true. And to take them through a system of techniques, and havening is by far the strongest one, but I integrate havening with neuro-linguistic programming and something I call waking state hypnosis. I put them in a kind of trance. In fact, havening does that to a certain extent, to put them in trance. So I use more than one technique, but from taking them to where they really are a mess, and most of them will admit that to yourselves, to within 2 hours to change the brain chemistry enough for them to see that there's an opportunity here to be well again, to be strong again, to get through this again within a matter of 2 hours. It's phenomenal. It's magical. And to see the smile on the faces after, it's no money in the world could pay for that. Yes, we do need money. We have to pay bills, but no money in the world could replace that look on the face, because you just know they just change instantly. And you know that what was crippling them a couple of hours ago is bearable now. And then you're on the pathway. Then the next few weeks is about, retraining, reprogramming the brain to accept that there's something life safe again.
Yeah, that's the important part, is to find out that it's safe again. And I know there's a slight look, and I know, Ray, you've done this for a while, when the person starts to get it, and the change starts happening within their face changes differently. And if you really think about how we hold on tight to things, once you let go, it feels so much better, but we don't know until we let go.
Yeah.
And Lee, is that something like how you've experienced? You still have the memories. It's not erased.
Yeah, they're still there. I was just going to come on to that. The first 2 or 3 sessions, it was that mind-boggling and scary. It put me in a bit of a paranoid state, in a frightened state again, because of how bad I was. I didn't want it to come back, and where it always has come back before, and my sleep, I was having flashbacks nearly every hour, 2 hours. I was getting no sleep, but I was getting full night's sleep, to the point where, the wife's waking me up. And it was kind of scary, because I was panicking in case all of a sudden it came back. And Ray will tell you, it took me a good 3 or 4 weeks to actually trust what he was doing was going to work. And when I got that trust and I got that confidence back, I couldn't get enough of it. And it just started to click and roll all into the same place, how my head should be. And I've still got them there, but I don't know. I've not even had a flashback since I've not even had a flashback since. And anything was setting them off before: smells, bangs, car doors. It would instantly take me back into that war zone again. And now I can just laugh it off now. And it's a strange feeling. And like I say, to suffer for 10 years was horrific, absolutely horrific. And most of that is forgotten. You know, I can't even think back some of the years. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey the last 3 months, really has.
Yeah, so the triggers don't. So now the same things that used to trigger you, you can kind of laugh it off. And
Yeah. No, I'm not in an alert state anymore. I'm not looking. I was always looking for danger. And what if this happened? What if that happened? What am I going to do? Now I can just walk down the street and it doesn't bat an eyelid, sort of thing. I'm not looking for that, or I'm not looking for danger. It's spooky, but it's actually good. Yeah.
So now when you walk down the street, you're walking at a relaxed pace.
Yeah.
Down that heightened.
I'm not hiding. I'm not. My head's down. My mask isn't on. You know, I'm not shying away from people or vulnerable points or crowd gatherings. You know, I'm actually just walking head high and my chest out, and I'm feeling proud again. And I've not had that for 10 years of coming back. Never had it.
If I can just mention something, something's just popped into my head. I remember when we very first sat together on the very first session. I mean, the first half hour or an hour is to get to know each other, to make sure he feels safe with me and everything. But one of the things that he said that stuck with me for a few weeks until he started talking in a different way was that he'd got no future. He says, I've got no future. You know, he really was considering that there was no opportunity, there was no reason that he should carry on living. But he couldn't see his future at all, because all that he'd had for the last 10 years was this repeated movie going on in his head that made him feel crap, basically. But once we started removing some of those memories, or the emotion to those memories, what he began to do then was he started coming up and saying, you know, I'm thinking of doing some training again. Suddenly he could see his future. He could see what he was going to be doing next year and the year after and the year after. And this is part of the miracle, if you like. This is where it takes him from one state of mind and allows him to open up again and see what the possibilities are. And he's already flying. He's doing really well.
Well, I think that's the biggest change in all of us, is when we can't see that, you know, tunnel vision, and we can't see all the possibilities. I know I've been in a dark place where at that time I wasn't able to see the possibilities. And what helped me get through it is once I started looking at some of the possibilities. And then it really is a game changer.
Definitely. From going to sleep at night, not wanting to wake up the next morning, to going to sleep at night, can't wait to wake up the next morning, is phenomenal. Yeah, that's the biggest change in me. I was praying I wouldn't wake up, you know, so when I was thinking, you know, suicide, overdose, anything. And luckily, the fact my family was there sort of probably swerved me a little bit, to the point where I didn't really think about anybody at that last moment when I was found face down, sort of a thing. It was just a total blackout. And even the doctor says, you know, my brain had just shut. It was that overloaded. It was like a computer. And she said it had just crashed. My BP, my blood pressure, my heart rate, it was sky high. It was clinically dead, basically. And that's how extreme it got. And like I say, there's no warning triggers, there's no warning lights or anything like that. It just springs up on you. And I was in a very, very bad place. So you can understand when Ray come on the scene, my wall was up straight away. And I was just like, nah, this isn't going to work. This is, you know, and yeah, 2 hours after the first session, I was a different person.
Yeah, it's incredible how quickly it can come, but also, you know, when you look at it back now, much like you were just sharing, that how much pain you were in, you don't realize how much pain that you're willing to try anything to make the pain stop. That's why even to let you know, so I had learned havening about 6 years ago because I was going through a very dark period, which wasn't as dark as I had 2 years ago. So even though I knew the resources, I wasn't using them. I was helping everybody else, but I wasn't helping me. And then once I had to put myself back into that thing, I was able to switch it very quickly because I knew it. And at that point, I had already started seeing my possibilities. So, how do you go through the day now, seeing your possibilities? Not only when you're with Ray, obviously, when you're with Merlin, it's an amazing, piece of
Yeah.
time. But how do you go through the day when you're not and managing some of the challenges that you might have?
To be honest, I don't see any I see a challenge as a challenge, and instead of swerving it, I'm going straight through them. And it's nothing at the moment has been phasing me at all. I'm not getting angry anymore. I'm not getting worked up. I'm not looking at things in a bad way. I'm looking at everything in a good way. And if something does go wrong, then I'm not going flying off the handle. I'm just going straight at it like a bull. And if I can't solve it and do it, then I'll find a way around it that I can. Whereas I wasn't doing that before. And that's when the alcohol came into the game. It was straight to the fridge and straight onto the bottle or straight onto a can, just to get them problems to go away. That I couldn't fight then. I'd like Ray said, I had nothing left. I just couldn't see anything. I couldn't see any way out. And the only way I could see was to just drink and fall to sleep. And it was totally, I say, looking back, wrong, but that was my coping mechanism. And now, actually, I enjoy a drink and I enjoy a laugh. I'm not using it to block anything. So, yeah, I don't have, hand on heart, I don't get challenges anymore. I just knock them down. That's it. They say life's just. I said to Ray, it's never been like this for the last 10 years. So I'm still edgy about it, but I'm taking that ride and I'm staying on that train now. So yeah, it is.
And it's been 3-4 weeks since our last session.
Yeah. And every single week and every day, I say every day gets better. I mean, me and the wife, we were arguing every hour at the slightest thing. We've not had an argument for 7 weeks now, not even the slightest. We just laugh at each other all the time. And it's just a massive switch around.
Right, because you don't see everybody trying to attack you, or you don't have that vigilance, as you mentioned, and feeling on the defensive, and that's great. So you haven't seen Ray in 3 weeks, and it's all been because it really is optimizing your brain and rewiring a lot of the behaviors that you needed to at that time. I mean, that's part of our challenge is when we've gone through those were our coping mechanisms because we didn't have the right coping mechanisms to deal with it. And again, the issues that we might live in the real world versus what you had to do in really survival world is completely different coping mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
He's got strategies now, he's got techniques and strategies because life is life, something will come around and slap you from time to time. And if you've got these tools, once you've learned them, you can use them for the rest of your life. And I think that's probably the magic within these techniques is we teach Lee and people like Lee, first of all, how to use them so that in the future, he doesn't have to come back to me. I'm always available, from now until the end of days. He can just pick the phone up and I'll always be available. But I don't think he'll need me now because he's got the tools. He knows how to self-haven. He's in a place now where he can rationalize what actually goes on. I mean, it feels real when they have these flashbacks, but it's not real. It's just a recalled memory. And I think once people get to understand that and we can ease the pain of one of them, then they begin to realize, well, actually, I've got more control over this than I ever imagined. And that's when the progress, you saw Lee jump in leaps and bounds once he'd got that idea in his head that actually I can do something now. Lee's done all the work. He's done everything. I had the techniques, but Lee has done the work. Without his input, without him making himself important in this, the success wouldn't have been as good.
Yeah, you mentioned that Lee and people like Lee can do this without doing that. That's what I always say when I sit down with a client. I go, I hope we build a relationship that I never have to see you again.
Yeah.
In this type of setting, we could be friends. You want to go for a beer?
Yeah.
Let's go. That's a different situation. But let's go work. And when you're willing to work, and Lee was obviously willing to work, because I again understand that from my point of view, when you're in that much pain, you're willing to do anything to be out of pain, because that's what we're really doing. And now you said you can, though you might have been an alcoholic earlier as a coping mechanism, you now can enjoy that beer at the pub, and
Yeah.
it's a completely different. It's a completely different reason you're drinking, just to have a drink.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like the thing about meeting Ray. I mean, my other psychiatrist. So I've been a bit aggressive towards some of them, and I've turned around and I've said, unless you get me a new head, you're not going to fix me. I need a new head, so get out the door, sort of thing. And what Ray has done, no hand on heart, is he's done that sort of thing. He's given me that. I've got my wish come true, because in my mind, I was ruined for life. And I used to say that, to the doctors and all that. There's no way you're going to fix it. There's not a chance. That's how severe the flashbacks were. And yeah, now it's like I have got that new head and that new lease of life. And yeah, he said it's magical, honestly. So he says that voodoo stuff.
Yep, I that's what I use it, and being somebody who's experienced it, a lot of the practitioners, you might have experienced it once or twice, but I've use it in my life regularly, and continue to use it regularly in my life. And you start seeing the changes within yourself, and you're like, huh, holy, like, just recently, I've gone through a bunch of stuff, and you're like, okay, instead of having the ups and downs that you would normally have, it was just like, okay, I knew this life is going to give you challenges all along the way. It's not going to be green lights and sunny days every day, but managing those much better in a healthier way is really all the difference.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. As like I say, I see any sort of hurdles or challenges now as a challenge that I'll get through it, no problem. And I don't shy away from them or run away from them anymore. Or get aggressive towards anything. It's like it's just going up and up and up every day. It's good. And the techniques, they do work. I was saying to Ray just before you come online, my partner's she's suffering with cancer at the moment. And she had some bad news yesterday, but last night I was just, like I say, rubbing her while she was having a sleep, and I got a bit funny, like, saying, what are you doing? I'm like, don't you worry, you'll feel better after it. And yeah, she felt a lot better. So if I can use it on her to calm her and, her anxiety, yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's how we go about thinking about things and healing things. There's so many ways that havening and techniques, NLP and hypnosis and all these things, it really is about, as you said earlier, being able to see the possibilities. And by seeing the possibilities, that automatically gives you, if this doesn't work, then we'll go to this. There's different ways to do it. And that's the part that I do agree with you, that many people who practice just go, well, the books say this.
Yeah.
And this is not a book thing. Yes, there are books about it, but it really is about give it a try.
Yeah.
I have a blend of between the book smart, and then you also have the Eastern philosophy of just this energy movement and all this. You can't explain it. You might not be able to document it that way as to why things work, but here you go.
Yeah.
It's working. Who cares? Right? At the end of the day, if we told you to stand on your head and spit nickels and it was working, you would have learned how to spit nickels. That's really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
I think what some of them believe, from my experience talking to a lot of them, is and Lee said, I thought that I was never going to be put right. I was never going to get my life back again. But as far as I'm concerned, Lee was always in there, but the distractions of the trauma have become so important that he forgot who he was for a while. I don't think it's kind of remaking. I think it's rediscovering who you are, and just taking away enough of the pain long enough for you to be able to say, yeah, I'm here again. I'm actually here again.
Yeah, it's a reawakening. That's what I always.
Yes.
I use a lot of R words, Lee. But the reawakening, because it's remembering who your most authentic self is. Because I know, again, for me, and I'll ask you the same question, is when I looked at myself when I was doing the other stuff, was that who I was? Was the actions that I was following through who I really wanted to be? I believed I was a good person, but was I necessarily seeing it? If I could look through other eyes to see that, and now I'm like, no, now I could look through it in my present state. Always, how is other people looking at it, or at least asking those right questions? How about yourself?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I mean, it was a good conversation with my mum the other week. That was about 4 weeks ago, and one of the things she said to Rebecca when we got outside is, "I got my son back," sort of thing, because how I was. I used to sit down some days and like talk to myself and say to myself, "This is not me. Why can't I leave the house when I've been such a strong soldier and a commander, and I've been a leader of men?" But yet I was so paranoid, and it was like being split. It was like the Joker sort of a thing. Constantly, that was the hurtful thing of knowing how I was and why I couldn't be back there. And that sort of head trauma and that pressure, when you can't see yourself, when you can't look at yourself, you think your world's over. You're gone. And there's no way out of that. I don't think there's anyone who could pull themselves out of that without the help. But you've got to accept that help at the same time. But yeah, I mean, Ray, I'll tell you the matter. I wouldn't even look people in the eyes. I'd sit there nervous. I was a complete wreck. There was no way you'd get me doing this kind of stuff. Not a chance. And now, he's quite difficult. And I'm pretty sure, I'm probably speaking for both of you. Soldiers are hard people to work with, very hard, because we put that back up and we put that wall up, and you guys have got to try and get into us. And I said to Ray that first session, and he picked up straight away. I had no confidence. I was just sitting there thinking, whatever, here we go again. And then 2 hours later, my mind was changed completely. And it has for the rest of my life, I think. So yeah, we can be a little bit naughty at times on putting that wall up. So you have got a big job straight off the mark, but the technique works. Like you say, going to see other shrinks and psychiatrists, and they ask you to draw a pig or a house or a clock, and I'm just like, not at school anymore, but apparently they can determine your mental state from that. But no, it didn't work for me.
Yeah, so I guess it is difficult breaking down that wall with anybody, not only a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been trained, especially it sounds like you were a commander of some sort. So you're told basically not to give people information, right? And that's the part of the military experience that's a challenge. Is you go from this hyper vigilance, not telling people things, protecting yourself at all times, to the rest of the world, which is really, that's the area that they need to work better at, is that transition period to remember. Again, mental health is something that we don't talk about in society as a general. How would you suggest, as somebody who's done it, what would you suggest to somebody who's going through what you did and find somebody like Ray?
Yeah, it's kind of a fine line. Like I said, soldiers will put that wall up, and you've got to be kind of treading on eggshells around them a little bit, because you've only got to say that wrong word and they'll flip out, sort of thing. So the difficult jobs there straight away, like say with the soldiers, and probably with a lot of other people, And on art, you know, I don't think I've got an answer, because whatever Ray did that day, it worked. And I'll be honest, I don't think I've got an answer to say that. No.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Just-
that Ray creates that safe space. So
that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you met Ray, and you probably had that wall up, probably double wall, and by meeting the right person, you then could find it. Now, Ray, so I'm going to ask you the question: how do you, and not to give away your Merlin tricks, but what do you do when you have somebody who is building up that wall and doesn't want the wall to break down? How do you work through that?
I don't mind giving my Merlin tricks away, because
I'd like to know this one as well.
the more people that know it, the more people that can be helped. And I suppose lots of it comes from many years of experience. And certainly at first, when I started working with soldiers, it was a lot more difficult. As I've gone along and worked with soldiers, I've kind of managed to gain a little bit of knowledge about how they are and how they've been treated in the past. And I think that may be the key to it. Many of them have said to me that they actually are not being helped. They're being hindered with some, and I'm not going to mention any names or, you know, any departments, but they feel as though they're being interrogated rather than being helped, and they're being judged. And I've heard this several times. I don't judge. Not at all. One, because I've never been there and I don't know. What I do know is how the brain works. And I do know that if I can offer something that they've never been offered before, and just give them a little bit of what it feels like. And we did this, we spoke, and then we'd work on something. And then I'd distract him and we go off somewhere else again, and then we'd go back to it. And some of the things that we were working on first didn't work. So this is where you have to be flexible, and you have to go, okay, then that didn't work. Let's put that over there and let's have a go at this one. And that's why I use several techniques together. Personally, I don't think that one technique alone will give the person the benefit that's required. And I also use a lot of confusion techniques, the old Ericksonian method of confusing the hell out of them. And some of the things that I have them do must seem quite silly to them. You know, I'll have them making silly noises. I'll have them standing up and turning around. Whatever I can do to confuse them once we're at that point that's hurting, so I can add something to the experience. So the experience isn't this, now it's this and this. And I try to put, you know, a little bit of laughter in it. And if we can laugh about things, silly things, whilst we've just been talking about how serious this was, and a few seconds later we're laughing about something else, there's a bit of an overlap there. What will happen is the laughter becomes part of that experience if we do it enough times. So I'll go back to it, I'll distract him and ask some silly question. They probably can't even remember at the end of the session what I've been doing. But this is why often they don't know what I'm doing. It's because I have the brain going all over the place. Then we'll do some havening. Then we'll do some talk again. And then I'll have them standing up and turning around in circles. And it's all part of the process. And like you said, if it works, then we carry on using it. If it doesn't, I'll just go on to something else.
Right. That's the great of having that bag of tricks.
Yeah.
You know,
He's right, exactly right.
Tools. It's not, yeah, it's tools, and
Yeah,
having that bag.
it's like exactly what he's just said. I mean, I left some of them sessions after two and a half hours walking up the street, scratching my head, thinking, what have I just done? And then, you know, the next couple of days, it was draining. Don't get me wrong, it was proper draining. More, I mean, then it all started to come better. Everything was just clicking in place. It was just absolutely bonkers. Some of it really is. But yeah, many a time I left and I was just, what the hell has he just done? I mean, he put me to sleep a couple of times, and I'm fighting. I'm trying to. I don't want to go to sleep, and I'm just gone into that state. And And then everything he said throughout the day or the next week starts to come back. And the brain's starting to work again, and it's starting to function again properly. Yeah, it's like you say, it's a crazy method, but it's a good method.
Yeah, it's just a crazy way of doing it. That's why I always say we plant seeds, and you just mentioned that it doesn't always happen at once. We start planting enough seeds, and it grows the right way in our magic garden.
Yeah.
And, I remember, having one of a client do air guitar. He was a big musician, and he didn't like, have to hum. So I said, well, you're a guitarist, go play guitar. And sometimes we had his actual guitar there, and there was one time he was going through a state change, and I said, go play your guitar. He goes, I don't have my guitar, I have to go downstairs. I go, no, go air guitar it. And he called me up the next day saying, what the hell did you do? And much like Ray was saying about yourself, and it's not, we don't do anything, we just give you the suggestion and you do the work. That's the amazing part. Is I'm just here sort of helping as a guide, not as a medium. That's why you can do this all on your own, and you've seen that for yourself.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
All right. I know we've taken a lot of your time. I appreciate you sharing the experience of not only working with Ray, but the coming through your PTSD. And again, I thank you for your service. More important than anything else, thank you. Because I always say that veterans, when you go into the service, you write a blank check, and you never know when that check's going to be cashed. And I'm very thankful that not only have you had to go through the things, but that you've gotten through them. That's what we want to celebrate. And thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And thank you for the opportunity to meet you.
No, not at all. I think the thanks is mine to you people, actually, to giving me my life back, and my family back is the main thing, and my little girl. But yeah, I think the thanks comes from me. Definitely.
All right. Well, then have a great day. I know you guys are a little ahead of this schedule.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Good luck with your fiance, and keep using Havening.
Definitely.
As Ray will tell you, there's lots of thoughts in the NLP world and about using some of those techniques to help reduce cancer. I wouldn't say that should be the only method. You should use Western medicine as well, but there are techniques that do help with combating at least the mental parts of a challenge like that, as well as some of the physical things.
Yeah, superb.
All right, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And again, we should always find peace and love in our lives. And when you need to bring a bat, bring that bat. But that's a bat of love, and find your sweet spot and swing away. Thank you.
Take care, David. Been a pleasure again.
Hey, thank you so much. If I can help any of you guys, really just let me know. And in a couple of weeks, I'll drop it. I'll let Ray. Well, I have your email, Lee.
Yeah.
So I'll email you as well. I'll email both of you when I'm ready to drop the episode in a couple of weeks. I'm gonna try to figure out. I might just do 2 episodes, so I'll figure that piece out, or I'll make one really long episode and kind of blend in. There's so many great things that you were saying, and I again appreciate so much your time and your sharing.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Have a great day.
And
All right, you as well. Have a great day, guys.
Take care. Thank you.